Hello, my dear friends of the Sistos no Caminho. I don't know if you know me. My name is Orlando Sixto. I am the creator of the Facebook page called Sistos no Caminho. That is in Portuguese, and it means Sistos at the Camino, at the way of St. James. Sistos, why? Because it's my last name, and I was working in this channel and being a pilgrim in the Camino de Santiago and also as a host in an albergue, a refuge for pilgrims in Santiago de Compostela. And I was with my brother and sometimes with my sons. So that's why it's called Sistos, because it's the plural of our last name. I just wanted to talk to you and explain to you something that was very interesting for me. For some time, I stayed there in the albergue and in Santiago de Compostela. And as you may know, it's the end of the pilgrimage. Most of the pilgrims walk long distances and they end their pilgrimage in Santiago de Compostela to visit the tomb of the Apostle Saint James the Great. And one of the things that, for me, the Camino experience as a pilgrim, as a host, it was incredible and it changed my life. But what I have been able to see is that some of the pilgrims that arrived at our albergue, I was talking to them, always talking to the pilgrims and asked them to share with me their experiences. Some of them seem to be a little bit frustrated, so they didn't get what the Camino experience really was. And while talking to me and sharing their experiences, I realized that most of them, most of those pilgrims that were not happy with the experience, they had a very common situation, which is they didn't know a lot of about the Camino up front. They had a very hard experience trying to manage their expectations. They came with a lot of expectations. Some of them, I don't know, came with the idea that it would be like I don't know, a nature or a historical vacation. They didn't know exactly what to expect. And that difference between expectation and reality that made them feel that they didn't get what they wanted. So, and I have been able to speak with some of them and talk to them about those expectations and the reality. And I could feel that some of them were re-energized. And how so? They started thinking, okay, now I have to do it again, but with the right mindset. The problem is one of the things that I kept thinking, and I was becoming a little bit frustrated as well because of the fact that I was at the end of the pilgrimage. I was at the end of the route. I was in Santiago. And I kept thinking, well, if my albergue was located in the beginning of the route, maybe I could have had that kind of conversation with all the pilgrims since the beginning. So the chances of them understanding better what to expect from the Camino would be higher. And then I came back. I finished that cycle of being a host. And I kept thinking, how can I try to help future pilgrims on establishing a correct expectation and understanding the cultural differences, knowing a little bit more about the history of the Camino and the legends and everything about it. So that's when I decided to write a book. I am Brazilian. I am Spanish as well. And so I wrote, let me see here, the first book in Portuguese. And then I launched the version in Spanish. And recently, this is the book in English. The title in English is not exactly like the title in Portuguese and Spanish, but it reflects really what it is. So it's in Portuguese, it says a guide without stages. And why? Because, there are lots of different Camino guides around there, very good ones. And it would be irresponsible from my side to to create a guide, because for you to have a real guide of the Camino with all the distances and the routes and the name of the albergues, their prices, their rules, and everything else, whoever decides to write a guide about the Camino needs to live very close to the Camino or have somebody going through the routes and the cities and everything and getting details, updated details. Because if you have a guide that tells a pilgrim to do this or to do that and it's outdated, it can create a real problem to the pilgrim. So, but it's a guide that the main objective is how to extract the most that you can from the Camino. So, so in Portuguese, un guia sem etapas. In Spanish, una guía sin etapas. It To make a little bit more sense in English, I decided to use the title Beyond the Camino Stages because that's what it is. Experiencing the Camino in its fullness. So what I try to do in this book is to uh, explain to the future pilgrim. It doesn't matter if it's the first time or the second time they are going to do it, to tell them and to give them tips and instructions on how to get this goal. And I talk about a little bit about the history of the Camino and my history. I talked about the cultural differences, how to behave when you are in a bar, in a restaurant, or in an albergue or a hotel. I talk about some very difficult subjects, especially um, about those pre-defined concepts of who is a real pilgrim and who cannot be called a pilgrim. So I talked about, and also I talked about what happens after the experience of the Camino for those who are really touched about it, the lessons that you can take out of it, of that experience, and how to go on, how to move on after that experience, because it's not easy sometimes. So, if you are interested, all those books, Portuguese, Spanish, and English, are at Amazon. Uh, both the Portuguese and English, you have paperback and ebook. The English version is only in paperback for now, but very soon, in about a couple of weeks, it's going to be also in ebook format. And that's it. So I invite you, if you are interested into preparing yourself physically, spiritually, mentally for the Camino and to extract the maximum that you can from this experience, please, I invite you to get this book and read it. And as usual, through my Instagram, my Facebook page, or whatever it is, if you have any doubt or if you want to talk, I'm always available to speak to you or to speak to a group or to Camino Friends Association or anything like that, because my main objective is to help as many pilgrims to have a wonderful experience, a life-changing experience. Okay? So thank you very much for your attention, and I hope to hear from you sometime. Okay? Have a nice one and buen camino.